Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Once again, it's time for the Q&As. So let's get this started. All right, first question. My goals are strength related. However, I completely ruptured my pec major. It will be 1 year since the surgery coming up in December. Can I still do conjugate, or is the heavy lifting too much for my pec muscle? I would almost say we need some history on that there. Number one, what did your surgeon say? Did your surgeon say that at a certain point you'd be able to train again? Because a lot of repair surgeries, the surgeons stand by their work enough that they tell many lifters that they'll be able to hit maxes. I mean, I've known of power lifters who've had things reattached where the surgeon says, yes, you will be able to compete in powerlifting again. Okay, and that is from the surgeon. So the question would really be, what did your surgeon tell you? The one who performed the surgery, like, what did he tell you? And you've waited a whole year to train. I don't think you should have waited a year to train. So my question would be, what have you done in the meantime? Have you been doing other chest work, been doing other benching? Okay, these are the things to think about. Now, given that you have had a pec tear like that, there are things you might want to definitely pay attention to, right? What do we mean pay attention to? I don't know. I'd be really careful of wide grip benching with a buffalo bar. Okay. I'd be careful of doing super deep dips. Right, those sort of things. What else would you want to watch? Pay attention to your connective tissue. Again, if you're going to run something like conjugate, I would say definitely get in and do a bunch of band work early on for your pecs. Right? Make sure you've got good blood flow to all that area. Make sure the connective tissue is strong. I would say someone with a history like that, maybe doing some really high rep dumbbell presses as an accessory, and I'm talking 20 reps, 25 reps on something like even a decline or a flat bench where you get a good stretch would be a real good idea. Again, will facilitate recovery, blood flow, things like that. It wouldn't be a bad idea for you to do stuff like that. You also are going to want to pay close attention to warning signs. If you start getting tendon pain, okay, you start getting a lot of cramps in your pecs, you're going to need to pay attention to those things and know when to back off, when to deload, when to do things accordingly. Right? You've had an injury like that before, so you know the warning signs. These things don't happen in a vacuum. Pec tears can only because of really bad technique going on, guys doing silly stuff like max dumbbell presses, doing a dip too deep, right? Things like that. Right? Extreme stretching of the muscle could cause it, but generally we get warning signs before we get major ruptures of a muscle. I know because I've had one, my bicep. We get warning signs, and we usually, what happens is that we ignore those warning signs, that risk of overuse, and we just disregard it, and that's when we get hurt. Pay attention to your body. Okay? Overuse injuries are real. That is how most injuries occur. 90% of lifting injuries are overuse related, including re-tearing that tendon. Watch for the warning signs. Pay attention to how your connective tissue feels if it starts hurting. We usually get 2 to 3 weeks of pain in a tendon before we rip it, unless it's a freak accident. So just be aware of those things. All right, next question. For bodybuilders, not my demographic, who wish to use failure techniques like rest, pause, and drop sets, when should they be introduced into an 8-week training block? Toward the middle or the latter weeks, or before the deload, just overreach before the deload? Generally speaking, I'm not a big fan of these sort of techniques. And I'm not saying sometimes to take a set to its limits, we shouldn't occasionally do some rest pause training, which is usually going to be on supplemental lifts. Sometimes you guys will see me even do it. I'll do it on a deadlift. Okay, I'll do it on a pen lay row, something with a good hard stop. Okay, but is this something that you should be using as a form of really thinking you're stimulating hypertrophy? No, it doesn't actually work. And it doesn't matter how many champion bodybuilders say, well, I've done this. It's like, you know what, had you stopped your set short and just repeated another set in 3 minutes, you would have gotten the same amount of muscle growth, if not more. Well, arguably not more, because usually they're on such an enormous cocktail of drugs that just about any hard training makes them grow. And that's the thing you need to remember with a lot of these pro bodybuilders who will tell you things like that. You've got to realize you're usually dealing with someone with a very pronounced genetic response to anabolics, which does exist, who's using copious amounts. And I don't mean what you guys call TRT, guys. Some of these guys are using grams and grams and grams. Remember the Rich Piana death cycle. And then there were bodybuilders saying that's fairly conservative in the bodybuilding world. So perspective, the scientific literature hasn't been kind to these sort of training techniques. They haven't been found to stimulate any additional muscle growth. And if you think about it, from what they do and achieve, they probably shouldn't cause. There's no mechanism for them to cause muscle growth, barring just accruing excessive amounts of fatigue. For the most part, an occasional rest pause on a deadlift or something like that is a little bit different. But you're not doing 3 or 4 rest pause reps usually. It's like rest pause for a second, try to grind out 1 more rep. Okay. That's a little different. That's not the normal rest pause. None of this rest pause type stuff or the drop sets has really been found to do anything when it's looked at. And again, if you're just accruing fatigue, that's actually one of the things that we know, that when large amounts of anabolics are used, muscle growth will be achieved through anything that just generates fatigue. Okay, anything that generates more fatigue will usually cause a small amount of additional hypertrophy. It's one reason they're very popular in those circles. So that's what we're looking at there. And I would say for the most part, you don't need these things. They're not necessary. Straight sets can maximize hypertrophy for a drug-free or a moderate dosed individual. Just normal straight sets, as long as they're quality sets, you use the appropriate intensity, appropriate training volumes. Right? If everything is programmed correctly, these things will cause maximum muscle growth. You can do it with straight sets. And it's pretty straightforward. So I don't usually recommend these sort of things at all. I don't program them for my lifters. All right, next question. Would you ever run full body 3 times a week again? Probably not. You know what? I've always found, and it's what I've said in the past, and I've kind of adjusted my stance on that, full body is great for novice lifters. It's great for novice lifters, right? It's a great way to build a base. And normally the majority of people out there listening are novice lifters, so that's one reason I pushed full body so hard early on. But what did I find? I found even for myself as an advanced lifter, when I messed with full body 3 times a week, I just didn't get the progress that I would like. Okay, I'm way too advanced of a lifter to get away with that stuff. Perspective. I'm squatting well past 500 pounds. I'm over a 600 pounds deadlifter, mid 300 pounds bencher, so on and so forth, all weighing 220. Very, very much an advanced lifter. So in my case, I don't benefit from it. It's not ideal. There's no reason to do it. I will probably generally stick to upper lowers, probably 4 days a week, and I see no reason to deviate from that. And that's something I've pointed out with that sort of template before. This sort of template is where we have the most research on in various advanced lifters. It works very, very well, and I'm not saying occasionally deviating from it wouldn't even benefit myself in some cases. But there's just an enormous number of world record level power lifters, strength athletes, NFL players, everyone else who have used these templates. They make it work. I've even seen guys like Viata runs his hybrid athletes on these sort of templates. It's largely what I think most people should be doing once they've knocked down their noob gains. And me personally, I just go ahead and when I have novices who come on for me as clients, I usually put them on an upper lower. I don't even do full body anymore for clients because there's no point. If someone wants to do a full body 3 day a week, there's already free programs. You just need to give them form coaching and feedback, and they can follow those programs technically. So if we're going to customize anything, I'm going to maximize the response, and I'm going to maximize their response on everything being hit twice a week. Although sometimes their back and stuff will get hit 4 times. All right, because a lot of them need it. But generally speaking, even my novice lifters seem to get pretty good success off of 4 day upper lowers, if they eat enough. A lot of them won't eat enough. That's their problem. So no, I don't really see a need to return to it. I've been doing upper lower for a very, very long time now. I've reached levels of strength already that I didn't think I would be able to reach in my 40s, and I'm continuing to get stronger. All of my lifters run upper lower for a day. All of my clients. And at the time this video is being made, I'm sitting on 24. Simply more effective from a programming perspective. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.